What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a really awkward Keyforge situation. Because you see, there was a post put up on Keyforge this week, and it has caused, shall we say, a not insignificant amount of discussion. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we lay it out and have a little bit of a gander and see what we come up with. So it was printed over on the Facebook group by Neil Crompton, and the answer was, how much amber will you get? Well, that was a question. The answer is, So let's lay it out, shall we? We've got a whole bunch of creatures that have 3 or less essentially health remaining. There's no such thing as health in Keyforge. It is when you have damage equal to your power, you are destroyed. But for our purposes, let's just call it health to make it easier. I like to think of it as your power is both your attack and your health. So Ammonia Clouds comes down and it deals 3 damage to each creature. So Nephru is a 4 power, but it's already got a damage on, so that'll be destroyed. Duma the Martyr is a 3 power, so that gets destroyed. Dust Imp is a 2 power, so that gets destroyed. I'm going to be honest with you, right? Pingle, who annoys, it doesn't really matter why he's there, if I'm honest with you. He's just there. Cool. So, here's the deal. Dust Imp, when it's destroyed, gains you 2 amber. So in theory, Ammonia Clouds will destroy Dust Imp and you'll gain 2 amber. And Nephru, each time a creature is destroyed, its owner gains 1 amber. However, in theory, Nephru isn't there because Nephru gets destroyed, so do you get the rest of the amber for Nephru being destroyed? But then there's an extra wrinkle here in that Duma the Martyr, when it's destroyed, you fully heal each other friendly creature and draw 2 cards. So the questions here are many. Is Nephru still there to gain you amber when the other creatures are destroyed? And are the other creatures destroyed, or are they saved from destruction by Duma the Martyr? Essentially, the question is, once they've been destroyed, can they be undestroyed by Duma the Martyr? Now, this is not an official ruling. We do not have a clear answer here, and presumably we will get a clear answer in the not too distant future, but here's what the general consensus seems to be. Ammonia Clouds comes down and deals 3 damage to each creature. It destroys everything. Duma the Martyr then fully heals each other creature and draws 2 cards, but they have already been marked for destruction. Now, to be clear, marked for destruction is not some official thing in Keyforge. There is no concept of marked for destruction, but as the lovely George Cagle put it, we need to call it something. So I agree with George, this is as good as anything. So essentially here, they are destroyed, Duma comes and heals them, but they've already been destroyed. That means that you do get the 2 amber for Dust Imp being destroyed, and incidentally you do draw 2 cards from Duma the Martyr being destroyed, but unfortunately Nephru is destroyed, which means it's not there to help your other creatures. And that means that you don't get the 1 amber for Duma being destroyed, you don't get the 1 amber for Pingle being destroyed, and you don't get a 3rd amber for Dust Imp being destroyed. 2 amber, 2 cards, there it is. Now, one thing we can be rather sure of here, something like Nephru has to be in play in order to get the ability. So when Nephru is destroyed at the same time, you don't get the ability. We're all fairly clear on that one. Okay, now that is the general consensus here. The general consensus is you get the 2 amber for Dust Imp being destroyed. Everyone is destroyed, but because Nephru is destroyed at the same time as everybody else, it doesn't actually get to use its skill and gain you another 3 amber. Or indeed 4 amber, because it might get 1 itself, but I'm fairly sure it doesn't, that one. Okay, So now let's get super complicated. Evan Fitzgerald over on the Facebook group has mentioned a podcast on which Brad Anders, bearing in mind he is the lead designer of the game, said that Duma saves, but he wasn't sure. Now, if Duma saves, it does raise a whole bunch of questions, but in theory, you end up getting no amber because nobody gets destroyed. I suppose there is an argument, and I don't think this is going to stick, just so we're clear, but I suppose there is an argument here that they all get destroyed, you gain all the amber, but then Duma comes and saves them. I am fairly sure that's never going to be ruled. Incidentally, if that ever is ruled, and I'm fairly sure it won't be, but if it ever is, go and get yourself some Duma decks. Now, Duma the Martyr is a rare card, so it's only going to come up in like 2% of decks. So one of the reasons this ruling query hasn't really come up properly like that, because with rare cards, they just don't come up as often. But if it ever does come up, and we do rule that Duma saves everyone, but after they're destroyed so you still get the amber, go grab yourself a Nefru Duma deck. And incidentally, Nefru is also a rare. So again, getting a deck with both Duma the Martyr and Nefru is going to be a difficult proposition. But if you can find one, and if it's ruled that everyone gets destroyed but Duma saves them but Nefru still gets you the amber, run as fast as you can to some of these websites that sell pre-opened decks and buy them all, ladies and gentlemen, because it gives you a huge advantage. Preferably get a deck with board wipes as well. Something like Unlocked Gateway would work quite nicely. Then, of course, we have the other angle. And the other angle here is that the active player essentially chooses the order in which things happen. So you should essentially be able to choose the order between Dust Imp and Duma. Now, incidentally, Nefru and Pingle they are destroyed simultaneously. There is no decision to be made there. But you would essentially get the decision as to whether to use Duma's destroyed effect or Dust Imp's destroyed effect. So presumably you'd use Dust Imp first. It gets destroyed, you gain 2 amber. But Nefru's on the field, you gain a 3rd amber. Then you activate Duma, which would save Pingle and Nefru, though it would not save Duma, because Duma only fully heals each other friendly creature. At which point you would get a 4th amber from Duma. So there is a potential there that you would actually get the choice. You choose to do Dust Imp first and get 3 amber. Then Duma goes and you get a 4th amber. And then Nefru and Pingle go and you're stuck at 4. You don't get the amber for either Pingle or Nefru being destroyed, because they are destroyed simultaneously. And as I've said a couple of times, the one thing we are sure about with this ruling is that Nefru has to be on the field to work. So there is an argument, it's not one that I'm buying personally, but there is an argument that he can be on the field when Duma and Dust Imp get destroyed, gaining you the amber, but there isn't an argument that it's on the field when Pingle gets destroyed. Pingle and Nefru have to go simultaneously, because them being destroyed is the same thing, whereas Duma and Dust Imp, you are looking at their destroyed triggers. Incidentally, I believe that's the reason why we've got another creature here, so that we can look at the question of, well, hang on a second, Pingle or any other creature, do we get an amber for them if Nefru and that is destroyed at the same time? The answer for that, I'm fairly sure, is definitely no. Now, one other interesting thing that's popped up here is people have had a look at this with Armageddon Cloak. Purely in terms of the wording to essentially help instruct us here. An Armageddon Cloak reads, this creature gains Hazardous 2 and destroyed. Fully heal this creature and destroy Armageddon Cloak instead. And essentially, if fully healed save the creature anyway, you wouldn't need the word instead, because Duma says you fully heal them, whereas Armageddon Cloak says fully heal them and destroy this instead, which implies that if all you do is heal, it doesn't save them from being destroyed, because otherwise Armageddon Cloak would just say fully heal this creature and destroy Armageddon Cloak. I'm not entirely sure if we can look at the word instead there and really read too much into that. Though, to be fair, both Duma the Martyr and Armageddon Cloak were cards that came around in Call of the Archon, so maybe though I do think that is one of the weaker arguments here. The answer is we don't know. Now, my inkling and the consensus of the community is very much that Dust Imp goes away and gets you 2 amber because all the creatures go away at the same time. And although Duma heals them, it doesn't stop them being destroyed. So you'd get 2 amber, you'd get 2 cards. That would be essentially what you'd get. This is not an official ruling. And honestly, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen this with awkward rulings in the past. It is extremely likely that Fantasy Flight Games will give us a ruling in the not too distant future. Bearing in mind, we know that they're watching. We know that they're paying attention to what's being put in the Facebook group, and we know that they are actively trying to take steps to help. So I think it's fairly sure we'll get a ruling in the near future. My goal in this video was to explain to you the issues, what the consensus is, and why the consensus might not be right. Hopefully I've done that, but let's be clear, this is a super confusing situation. Hey ho. As always, ladies and gentlemen, I would love to know what you think about this, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about, well, a whole bunch of stuff. Keyforge, but basically any other game that takes my fancy. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.